on average, if men are stronger than women are, and that if we were to allow transgender women to compete with non-transgender women, then this would somehow not disadvantage biological women. And this seems to me
I feel like there's such a
scientific.
decent
That if we're
middle
actually going to have a
ground
discussion about
of
gender and sex, that should be based
doing more
in data,
intramural
which suggests
things,
that
or
mammals
allowing
are
them
in fact
less
binary in terms of their sex,
competitive
unless you
things,
have
like if they're in the
intersex
NWA or
birth
like the
defects,
Olympics, it gets a little
typically,
more
or genetic
sketchy.
defects.
I'm happy to opine on this.
But if they're like on a high school team in Seattle, like who gives a fuck?
This only matters because today we segregate nearly all sports.
Should be district by district, but then once it hits the collegiate level, it probably.
Why do you even give a shit?
Probably should find other avenues.
What's someone identified?
Or more specific leagues for them at the major institutions.
And with consenting adults and people free expression of who and what they are.
Man, on adult level, I agree with you. I think it does matter what you teach
That's
your
what I'm
children.
saying. And so there's the matrix of what you are biologically, how you express yourself, who you choose as a sexual partner. If we actually live in a free country, as we tell ourselves, people's freedom to behave in any of those ways should not concern you at all. Nor are they requiring that you behave that way. Okay,
well,
this
it's actually
is
so
for their
trippy.
own freedoms, because we live in a free country. Now, what is unresolved?
I guess it's kind of nice, because especially with all the skins, you might have kind of seen the champion. But
I follow that closely, and I don't see any meaningful solutions to come down off of that. We know that hormones manifest differently in different people, and just the whole thing with steroids. Steroids are hormones, right? And
that's also a decent point too, where there's
also
natural
steroids in professional sports because it gives you an undue advantage. So
there's women with too high of testosterone, natural-born women,
of sports
too high
would be
of testosterone
in the world
to
of the
compete
gender
in some
spectrum.
events.
And it may be you don't specify whether it's a male or female sport. You just take measurements of what your hormonal balances are, and so you compete based on your hormones. I mean, this is thought I had. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where it's going to land.
The WNBA won't be in business for very long if that's the case.
It would just be you'd have to find some way to compete people against each other if you still care that sports is an interesting activity.
Neil deGrasse Tyson was absolutely right to point out that the real fear isn't the science, it's how politicians might weaponize it. When he says we don't trust that people in charge won't try to legislate something that constricts people's freedoms in the face of that information, he's exposing something most commentators won't admit. Science isn't what scares people. Power is. This conversation isn't about facts, it's about control. This didn't come out of nowhere. Think about the last 2 decades, whether it's climate science, gender identity, or public health. We've watched time and time again as data gets twisted into culture war ammo. And Tyson is naming that fear directly. He's not just talking about abstract theory. He's pointing to a pattern. Like he says later, if it involves discoveries that put people's freedom at risk, then we're not talking about free inquiry anymore. We're talking about legislation wrapped in science-flavored moral panic. That's not new. That's the same old playbook. What we're seeing here is an exact reversal of the usual right-wing claim. You know the one, the left doesn't trust science. But here, Tyson flips it. The real issue is, can science be used responsibly by those in power? He and the host both agree it's not just about bringing out the science, it's about what happens next. And the history? Yeah, Tyson nails it. The history of that exercise is a recipe for disaster. Because every time science has been filtered through political fear, whether it was eugenics, McCarthyism, or anti-trans legislation, the outcome hasn't been more freedom, it's been less.
I guess the area where it does come up in a non-sports area.
Yeah, tell me, I don't know.
So it would be, you talk in your book about the education of children and teaching children about science. And right now, children are being taught about the quote-unquote gender spectrum, which is not scientifically based. That is a theory-based
It's absolutely
idea.
a spectrum of...
Wait, hold on.
Because there's physiological things we associate with genders, and that physiology is varied. So what an actual retarded point.
That's a social point, not a scientific point.
It's
meaning we express ourselves based in different languages. Is that something you teach in science class, or is that something that you teach when you're teaching language?
So whether the fact that people want to express themselves on a spectrum, on a gender spectrum, whether that fact is something you want to put in a sociology class or in a science class, maybe that remains to be determined. But it is a real fact about real society.
Well, of course, nobody's denying that people identify how they want to identify.
So
the question is, what is the relationship of that to biology? Meaning that the argument is made that trans women are women, for example. And what that seems to mean is that trans women are identical to women. Now, if people want to say trans women are not biological women, obviously that is the case. But people don't seem to want to say that, although that is obviously scientifically true. Trans women are not biological women. Biological women are biological women.
But where are you going with this? What are you trying to accomplish by asking yourself, is it science or is it not science? It's people in society.
But this is a perfect example of an area where suddenly it doesn't matter to say things that are just true. Like, why is it bad or wrong to point out?
I have another way to approach this. I care what is objectively true in the world as a scientist. But let me not say even as a scientist. I just simply care what is objectively true. And science happens to be a pretty potent path to invoke, to find out what is true. And so if people express themselves on a gender spectrum, and that is an actual thing in an actual society, if we have not fully explained that scientifically, that's an interesting frontier to study. If you want to say it's only sociological, then it's the purview of the social sciences.
He's gonna poke the
I don't care who studies it. It's an interesting fact about society that's worth learning about. To fight someone and say it's not biological, it's just your this.
Mostly pretty squishy.
It's real and it's there.
Well,
because it's real because it manifests.
But it is real because it manifests. But the question of how to classify manifestation is a scientific question, meaning that, for example, there was a woman over at Brown University. She came out with a study that suggested that there was a phenomenon called rapid onset gender dysphoria, in which a member of a particular group would suffer from gender dysphoria, and this person's immediate peer group would suddenly have an onset of gender dysphoria. This paper was so controversial that Brown tried to pull it, and then was forced to reassign it later. You see this sort of treatment.
That's a different question. What you're asking now is, are there some topics that should not be studied scientifically?
Right.
And is there some taboo? And Sam Harris speaks a lot about this.
Yes.
And I think the concern is, if you study some topic that's a hot button topic and you bring scientific methods and tools to it, we don't trust, I'm interpreting here, I think we as a society don't trust that people in charge in a free country won't try to legislate something that will constrict people's freedoms in the face of that information. I think that's the fear.
Well, isn't that...
It's a fear.
I mean, and isn't that...
We don't trust our own ability to govern ourselves in the face of what could be some information relative to other kinds of information.
Isn't that a bit of a problem?
Yes. Yeah. It's not. It means it's not a free society. It's not a society of free inquiry, which I think you need ultimately. But yeah.
My general take on all of this stuff, from climate change to gender dysphoria to all of these issues, is bring out the science and then let's hash it out. I think that the problem I'm seeing on a lot of sides...
But whenever they do that, they're probably just like, George Soros probably funded this, so obviously...
You end up creating legislation that subtracts freedoms from people who previously were enjoying the same freedoms as you. The history of that exercise
make a better argument.
Doesn't end well.
Well, but the history of which exercise? Bring out all the science and let's hash it out?
I'm saying, if you bring out all the science and the politicians hash it out, the history of that exercise is a recipe for disaster if it involves discoveries that put people's freedom, as defined in our Constitution, at risk.
Neil deGrasse Tyson was absolutely right to point out that the only reason this is even a debate is because we separate sports by gender. That's the core issue. The rest, noise. When Ben Shapiro opens with "the left is militating against science," especially on transgenderism, what he's actually doing is weaponizing biology to shut down a conversation about freedom and fairness. This isn't about science. It's about control. Let's be real. This didn't happen in a vacuum. Shapiro is recycling the same tired scare tactic, pretending trans rights are a threat to civilization. He quotes biology like it's a magic bullet. Mammals are in fact binary in terms of their sex. Cool. And humans also have over 100 intersex variations that don't fit cleanly into male or female. That's also science. And Tyson doesn't ignore that. He builds on it, saying directly, we live in a free country. People's freedom to behave.
Why does he sound like AI
Joe
Rogan?
Alright guys, I thought it would be a nice...
There's an ugliness that's out there right now where, you know, there's certain podcasts out there that if you're a racist, if you're an anti-Semite, if you're a psycho-nationalist and you want a softball interview, there's podcasts out there where you can, and they will laugh at your fucking bad jokes and just give you this pass. And it's like, you know, there's a really...
It's like just
ugly thing
Wikipedia,
that's going on out there, and
find a couple things people are stressed about.
The kind of things we've
talk
already
about
seen
it.
this.
That's what they
and
want.
we've seen
That was
what
the
it
point
does
of the
to a
podcast
nation, and
space.
it's not the way to go.
Like many people
Not
on
to just
Earth
nod
right
and
now,
laugh.
Bill Burr seems to have reached his last nerve with this group of grifting podcast bros in the Rogan sphere and adjacent circles, as he just spent a good portion of this interview he did yesterday with Variety calling out the absurdity of what this whole thing has turned into. Because if you didn't know already, these podcasters Bill's referring to here have truly been playing with fire lately with the people that they platform. And it seems that they have zero clue about the actual impact these massive podcasts will have on the public for years to come. They're really just in it to make money. It is grifting at the highest level, and it seems to just be getting worse. Like, why on God's green earth are the Nelk boys interviewing the Prime Minister of Israel?
Burger King kind of sucks.
Yeah.
No, you're wrong.
The BK Lounge can hit.
I disagree completely.
You like Burger King over McDonald's?
That's your worst take, I think.
Absolutely.
And you know it's gotten bad when Bill Burr has to finally step in and be the voice of reason, since he typically avoids these heated topics until he just can't take it anymore. And so he really doesn't hold back here. Like, he pretty much calls Joe Rogan and his whole crew a bunch of pseudo-intellectuals who think they're genius because they read stuff online, when in reality they're just dumb guys who don't realize that they're causing irreversible damage just by having these types of people on.
You know, you're talking about the billionaires and politician stuff. What do you feel, and podcasters, what do you feel about politicians and billionaires who've appeared on podcasts of your peers to try to leverage comedy for their own goals?
Oh, that's, dude, it was before that. I remember the first time I saw a president go on the Tonight Show. I thought it was cheapening The Office. It's like they never did that. Now that everybody has a camera and blah, 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 it's just so all over the place. I just think the landscape of it has changed. All I can say is personally, I would never do it. I would never have somebody come on that's running for fucking president with my intellect. I'm not going to sit there and be like, so, like, what are your, what's your foreign policy? Like, I would be like, within 3 minutes, dude, what was your favorite Super Bowl? And then people would be like watching it going, I like that Super Bowl too. I'm going to vote for this guy. It's just like, it's just so far beyond my wheelhouse. Like, I am just that's just way, way, way beyond. Like,
Then Burr really starts to go in on who people assume are Joe Rogan and Andrew Schultz, criticizing them for thinking there's some form of higher intellect, like they've ascended beyond the normal working class civilian, just because they can regurgitate whatever they read online that day in a somewhat coherent way. And Bill Burr explains here that this is all ego-driven, as they desperately want to appear like someone who's more valuable than who they really are. D-tier stand-up comedians at best, who have to get onto their tippy toes just to reach for the lowest hanging fruit. But as Bill Burr puts it, at the end of the day, they're just dumb jocks who would only sound smart in a sports bar.
There's a difference between the people that read and the people that are the subject of what you're reading. You know what I mean? There's people that, like, discover shit and figure shit out, and then there's the people that read it. Like, the amount of people that can explain the theory of relativity. That's probably not a lot of people, but they can do it. But then there's this ego thing that because now I can explain it like I'm somehow Einstein adjacent. It's like, no, you're not. You just read some smart shit.
Yeah.
That was a bit I used to do in my act where it's just like, there's nothing worse than when a dumb person reads. because now they think they're smart. It's just like, no, you're just a dumb guy that knows a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Like, intellect, to me, is how you process information. It's not just reading a bunch of smart shit, putting in your head, and then puking it out at people, and be like, in 1492, that's not smart.
Oh,
You're
God.
torturing people.
Yeah.
So it's more like how you put stuff together. And like, somebody said to me one time, Bill, you're a really smart guy. And I go, yeah, in a sports bar. You put me in a sports bar and you want me to talk about 70s and 80s sports. I am scoring very high.
Yeah.
All right, you put me in like that form to have to interview somebody that is going to run for president, and then as the sports bar guy, you're going to see like, yeah, this guy did go to summer school a lot. So,
And Bill saying this is truly satisfying, as Joe Rogan and his offspring have been impersonating philosophers for way too long now. So even though he doesn't mention them by name, it's pretty clear who he's talking about here. And just so we're clear here, Bill Burr will probably never go back onto JRE, as he A, would like to keep a healthy blood pressure, and B, doesn't want to waste time trying to save Joe since he's already past the point of no return. Like, he is truly compromised at this point. And Bill knows this. So the next point Bill makes here is, in my opinion, the most important point that he makes in this interview, as he goes on to define the role of the stand-up comedian when talking about politics, which seems to have been lost in recent memory. So as you'll see shortly, Bill says that the comedian's job is to simply trash both sides of the political spectrum, because like many other people around the world, Bill Burr hates both the far left and the far right, and if he doesn't trash both sides equally, too many idiots will think that he's on their side, which is the last thing he wants. And funnily enough, it's the first thing that guys like Tony Hinchcliffe and Andrew Schultz want, which just goes to show how many light years ahead of them Bill really is.
Yeah, and ultimately, my question is ultimately, when you think of talking about politics at all in your act, what do you want to do, right?
if I do it, I trash them both.
Yeah.
When I started Walton Goggins goggle glasses, I needed a website.
sign?
Figuring out how to make one was pretty hard on the old noggin. But with GoDaddy Arrow, I can just tell it what I want. And it uses AI to make a website so fast it pretty much blows my noggin. This is working. With a beautiful design that'll blow my customers' noggins. Which allowed me to focus my noggin on making more goggins to put on their noggins. Which were just metaphorically blown. Look like you know what you're doing at GoDaddy.com.
Yeah. With what?
Because that is my job. That is my job. I can't fix the political
That is
system.
exactly it. It's
and
like we
I don't
expect
watch
you
a
to
lot
shit
of
on
it.
both sides, but you get so sycophantic so quick.
When I do
they-
stand-up,
and it's
if
partly
I
because
start
they know what to do.
trashing,
Pick the 2 or 3
like
topics
Trump,
you'll agree on and try to hard focus
I would hear
there.
the left in the crowd like, yeah,
You have to
yeah,
resist
yeah. And I'd be
that.
like, the fuck, you voted for a guy that, is staring off into space. Like, your guy literally should be in a fucking home. What are you patting yourself on the back for? X, Y, and Z, blah, blah. Your fucking party has not let you has not let you choose your candidate since Obama's second term.
Yeah.
You're liberal? That's fucking insane. We want Bernie Sanders. Fuck you, Hillary. We want Bernie Sanders. Fuck you, fucking Mr. Magoo. Mr. Magoo again, fucking 2 weeks before. Oh, yeah, it's his vice president.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. So, like, so then, after I trash Trump, I then do that because my thing is like, I'm not flying either one of their flags that pay them.
Mm-hmm.
That is the problem. And they're always distracting us with other stuff. So, like, CNN and Fox News are a fucking disease.
So Bill Burr is really trying to make it clear here that he is not affiliated with either side of the political spectrum. He might lean left on some issues and right on others, but at the end of the day, he is a pure stand-up comedian, and he wants to shit on both sides equally. And by saying this, he really exposes the major error that podcasters in the Rogan sphere made by taking one side before the election last year, as they quickly went from being podcasters and entertainers to political puppets. which is Bill Burr's worst nightmare. And it almost came true earlier this year when he started going after Elon Musk and other CEOs on his podcast, which made the left think that he was on their side.
Think about global warming.
You said about Elon that he was ruining Earth, I saw on The View. You're critical of him. What do you think of all the boycotts, like even the violence?
I don't watch the news. I don't watch the news. I have no idea what's going on. I watch Instagram. I watch people wipe out on motorcycles. I watch lions and hyenas fight each other. This is the things that I do. And I don't think you should be asking a comedian. You're a journalist.
Comedians are on top of current events.
No. That's weak. That's you guys passing the buck. You guys need to have balls again, which you don't. You guys always goes, should we be thinking this? Duh. You guys present stuff like that. You guys used to have balls. You need to get your balls back.
So in this next clip, Burr goes in on the left as well, demonstrating how a true stand-up comedian should approach politics.
So, and then at the same time, you know, you're talking about billionaires, you're talking about stuff like this, and people on the left have been really embracing you, and they're sharing your videos.
No, that's not true, dude.
Certain parts of the left.
That's not true.
Certain portions of the left.
That's not true. And certain portions of the right.
Sure.
There's common sense on both sides.
Sure.
But we keep doing this shit. Where it's like, oh, the right's all fucking racist, and dude, the left is some of the most fucking. Most of the left feels like if they have a black friend, they don't have issues. Okay, I'm out of that.
Yes,
I'm out of that. So I don't want to hear left and right crap. They're all fucking nuts. That fucking shit post Me Too, where it went from people shouldn't sexually assault people, absolutely, to I don't like what you're talking about in your act, was fucking nuts. It was McCarthyism on the left. And now you've gone to the other side on the right. And the left was so fucked up, the right, you know, the psycho right thinks that they're in the middle, and they're not. They're out of their fucking minds. And I travel, dude, and I'm telling you, people who lean right and lean left are chill. And we're just sitting in the middle like, when is everybody gonna fucking calm the fuck down? When is this going to go back to, you know, like, live and let live?
Sure.
So, and there's way more of that. And I have people from construction workers to fucking, you know, hairy leg chicks with nose rings going, hey, I like what you're saying out there about these billionaires. Because that is the fucking problem.
Yes.
And the other problem is that people make it like it's political. Like if you vote for this color tie, these billionaires are somehow going to grow a heart. And it's just not the case.
Bill then goes scorched earth on Ben Shapiro, who idiotically associated Bill with his politics until Bill said something that didn't align with Shapiro, to which he then criticized Burr for and called him blind with wokeness, which is just another example of why Bill tries his very best to stay far away from both sides of politics, since it just puts you in an ideological chokehold if you dare say something that they don't agree with.
Is that people keep trying to categorize what it is that you're doing. Like that idiot Ben Shapiro. No, he's woke now. He's like, I don't, that fucking guy, someone came to me and goes, hey man, he was trying to bring me into his fold. At one point, the guy liked me.
Yeah.
You know?
When he was
and
shitting
then
on
when
the left.
I didn't, then all of a sudden, I'm a fucking asshole. I mean, I'm supposed to
It's
look
crazy
at
how
that guy like
people
he's an
prop up
adult.
people.
He doesn't even know what that word means.
Just when they agree with them.
Let me sum
His
up.
And they're
definition
idiots.
of woke is,
All of a sudden,
is
2
white
years
liberals'
later.
definition of woke, and they didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
They just took the word from black people. That's the worst thing about our people, is not only do we take from other cultures, we don't even take the time to understand the definition.
Yeah.
He went there to be annoyed so he can then have something to talk about, and then he can make money off of dividing his own country.
Yeah.
Those people, it's treasonous what they do.
Yes, but to be fair, or not to be fair, the fact is that it worked for what his goal is, which is then it became a thing online where then a certain portion of
It's
the
like a
right
mini media
complained about how you're
empire.
woke.
Racists.
And we're racist.
They're racist. Yeah, they send pictures of monkeys to me and my wife.
They're so into like the white nationalist community that they had to kick out a Zionist because it's started by a fucking Jew.
Measure, Bill takes a shot at Neil deGrasse Tyson, who more and more seems to be one
no
of those Lex
introspection.
Friedman type
It's fucking
guys who
insane.
look and sound like scientists, but really haven't done anything else to prove it.
Like, I'm still out. The jury's still out with me with Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's like, is he a good scientist? I don't, because every time I see him, he's talking to somebody like me, and I'm like, is that how the tides work? I had no idea. It's like, he didn't figure that out.
Yeah.
He learned it. I want to see him sitting down next to another scientist and have the guy be like, wow, Neil, I never looked at it that. Like, I want to see somebody on your level.
It's interesting. He does spend a lot of time talking about movies.
He doesn't do science a lot. He definitely sits around a lot talking about it. It's sort of like a Dr. Phil kind of thing.
So
he's always looked like a crooked cop to me. He just looks like he would plant a pistol, do one of those and take like a taped up pistol.
I think you're probably more right than we've realized.
So yeah, at this point, Bill Burr laid out a blueprint for how comedians should be handling this mess. Calling out the grifters, staying out of the political trap, and actually be funny without selling your soul. Because once you pick a side, you are no longer a comic. At that point, you're just another pawn. And whether you agree with Bill's stance here or not, one thing that's truly beautiful about this call out is that whether you're left or right, you can agree that the frat boys in their 30s at Nelk should have never in a million years interviewed guys like Donald Trump or Benjamin Netanyahu. I mean, absolutely no one asked for that. And after that Netanyahu interview happened, humanity sort of came together to pile on them for it. And they actually just got completely destroyed for it in their podcast with Bassem Youssef. And so on that note, that is it for the video, guys. Make sure to like the video, comment, and thanks so much for watching.
Fresh fall! This deodorant is sumptuous. The smell is gorgeous. Give Dr. Squash your heart. Buy Dr. Squash for your pit.
Today is a victorious day as our relative is here in the flesh.
President Joe Biden commuted the life sentence of Leonard Peltier.
I was really, really, really proud because it was a really courageous thing that I think that my dad did.
The 79-year-old has served nearly 50 years in prison after being convicted for the 1975 killing of 2 FBI agents.
A young man who's spending his life in prison for something he almost certainly did not do.
Leonard Peltier and others killed Williams and Collier in cold blood on the reservation because they happened to be there at the wrong place at the wrong time.
He's considered by a lot of people to be America's longest serving political prisoner.
People today don't understand the FBI of 73. They went after Martin Luther King. It is in that context that Peltier was gone after.
The Peltier group, who could have just driven away, came to the agents' cars, Williams and Collier, and killed them both at point blank. I think I speak for all FBI agents. It's a kick in the balls. That's, yeah.
I know in my heart I never killed nobody.
Howdy there, Jake Fowler here with the C5 crew in beautiful Belcourt, North Dakota, homelands of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa Indians. Right now, we're standing at the entrance to the casino here, and they're hosting an amazing event to honor the longest held political prisoner in the United States, Leonard Peltier. So let's check it out.
My spirit name is One Who Carries the Light. Turtle Mountain, born and raised. Just here to celebrate Leonard Peltier coming home. There's a town that you enter before you come into the Turtle Mountains. We got word that there was all sorts of community members who stood out on the side of the road, children, elders, probably 20 below, maybe even colder with the wind, and they're out there fist high cheering on Leonard, and it was a powerful moment.
Seeing him walk in there, them printing shirts of his, food, the drums, community fam.
You know, we're in this together in unity. Just goes to show you right now what we're doing with Leonard. Beautiful people gathering together, you know, saying out war cries or whatever. It's really beautiful, yeah.
I'm still shocked, you know what I'm saying? When I saw him get off that plane with him, I'm like, oh my God. To bring home somebody after that amount of time, Mandela, who did 27 years in a South African prison, then he came home and became president of South Africa. I think this is bigger. So I'm just excited to see what they do next, man. It's only up from here.
Yesterday, watching him cross that reservation line, something happened, and I'm a younger guy. Like, I haven't been in this fight for very long, but watching these elders and the reactions from them, you know, I was telling some of the younger guys that were with us too, like, remember what it feels like. Remember what the stage in there smelled like, and those moments of being really present will continue to set in. You know, in our way, we say like ikakima, which is like try hard, you know, like try hard. That motherfucker tried hard, man.
Before having his sentence commuted by Joe Biden in the final minutes of his presidency, Leonard Peltier was held in a federal detention facility in Florida for 58 years after being convicted in 1977 on 2 counts of first-degree murder. Initially sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms while his co-defendants were found innocent, this ruling was extremely polarizing. To some, he was a cop killer, and to others, he was a freedom fighter, and was expected to receive a pardon during the Obama era for alleged inconsistencies in the government's case. Bono made a whole thing about it too, but nothing happened.
Guess who wrote a song about Leonard Peltier?
Yeah.
Bono.
Booyah!
He should have got full pardon. Look at the ones that Trump pardoned. They were murderers. Look what they did to our capital. And then we have our little native guy has to stay in his home. That, to me, is so unfair.
I always wanted to know what the Native Americans understood.
We face violence just like our elders, praying on the lands just like a Haysapa, and the Haysapa will never forget the day that the people stood stronger together. It calls protesters, we'll protect us, standing together, we'll never surrender. No pipelines, no fracking on sacred ground, we're gonna stand up, make our ancestors proud.
And Doug.
Are you here for Tracy?
We're here for everyone. Limo and I help people save hundreds by customizing car insurance with Liberty Mutual.
We ordered a limo, not a limo.
Oh yeah, we do that too.
The limo?
At your service. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Did you know that Mint's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back?
Who is this?
I told you it's Ryan Reynolds.
This seems like a scam text.
This isn't a scam text.
If this is another wellness tea thing, I'm out.
Seriously, Mint's offering unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month right now.
Jordan, everybody.
Whoever's like the bartender in the Deadpool movie, I just saw a
and I'm here
YouTube
just
short
to
of him
represent
like
my family because my
calling
grandma Deborah White
Ryan Reynolds
these
a
past
dick.
few decades she's been advocating for his release, and she passed away 5
Apparently
years
they
ago.
do not
They
get
were good
along.
family friends.
Old
Since she
co-star.
ain't here to celebrate, I'm here to represent for her. I feel really appreciated that he's finally out, and how much organizing and work it took for the communities outside to advocate and bring awareness and make sure that his freedom was still on the table.
I don't know if I could have taken this.
I pray in gratitude that I was able to live long enough to see this day. How can you take something that horrible and make it a blessing? He showed us how.
And I'm humbled to pass the mic off to one of my heroes, to one of our warriors, to one of our leaders, Leonard Peltier.
Thank you very, very much for serving us. It was surprising. I was full of shock. It was surprising to see all of these lined up there and welcoming me home, you know. I was June 10th. I went before the Cold War, and he gave me a death sentence, 15-year hit. Me years old, probably going to do 15 more years without the medical treatments I need. I was supposed to die here in that cell, but I beat him. I beat the bastards.
What was a celebratory moment for many people in the indigenous community was the opposite for the intelligence community and FBI agents who see this commutation as a kick in the balls and a pathetic last-ditch effort by the Democrat establishment to capture the hearts and minds of the progressive left.
I mentioned the, I call it the kick, the kick in the groin to the FBI over Peltier throughout. That was sort of the final kick.
I should also note, this is the first FBI agent I've ever interviewed, and I wasn't really sure how to act, but shout out to our social media manager, JP Scatini, for making this happen.
J.P. Scatini.
All right, man. Hey, yeah, glad you can make it. Yeah, you're coming into the, as my wife says, yeah, I love me wall.
It's like souvenirs from your time with the FBI?
Yeah, a lot of junk that's going to wind up probably in a box someday. And so after 9/11, when a lot of more braver people were volunteering to go to horrible places in Afghanistan and elsewhere, I decided, well, I can do that. I've been to Egypt. It's not that bad. There's a Hard Rock Cafe. So I volunteered and spent about 3 months in Egypt and somehow got this thing made to put on my desk. I'm not sure what it says. Actually, read that way.
I'm assuming it says Chris Graham.
I hope so.
What if it says like total loser and they were just
infidel,
pranking you for
right?
years?
Yeah. Kill this infidel when you see him.
Didn't know they had a Hard Rock Cafe in Cairo.
Yeah, well, they did. And went there again after 9/11, and it was sad. It was empty.
People don't get it. Osama was like active way before 9/11.
Yeah. The Tanzania bombings.
Read a book about him. When he was young, he used to go to Beirut, back when it was like a more westernized, safer city. He used to get drunk at bars and just bitch about America. And then he really made something out of it.
Some of the hijackers were out partying the night before at strip clubs. And
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah.
Tipsters say at least one terrorist received lap dances at Olympic Garden.
They were not being pious.
Some of them were gamblers, high rollers, good customers.
They were living, now maybe that was by design to kind of fit in. But
I think it was more likely because they like strip clubs.
I think you're right.
I don't think they're like, we're going to throw off in the CIA right now. I'm going to go get a lap dance in Cambridge.
Strip dance, especially if you're going to crash a plane.
We got to talk to those strippers and figure out what the vibes were.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Just wanted to take a quick break here to see how the media has been covering the standoff between the Trump administration and New York over their statewide ban on Native American mascots. The left and right are covering the Trump administration's threats to pull funding from New York over their mascot ban in very different ways. For example, the left-wing Daily Kos headline reads, "Trump team makes ridiculous and racist demands of schools," making it clear exactly where they stand on the matter. Meanwhile, the right-wing Fox News headline reads, "Education Department finds a New York agency's violated Civil Rights Act with ban on Native American mascots," echoing the same talking point as the Trump administration, and seemingly trying to conflate the struggles of Martin Luther King Jr. with a high school who doesn't want to change their mascot. As we know, different outlets push different agendas, shaping the story to something else. That's why ground news, we've all got
ground
help.
News
It says ban
probably
click the link, they can check it out to North Dakota.
So, Chris Graham, I had a lot of positions in the FBI over 26 years. Was a street agent for many years, was a supervisor for many years. When I got to the FBI Academy in 1989, one of the first things you come to when you walk around is this thing called the Hall of Honor. And these are agents who were killed in the line of duty. Two really stand out, Williams and Collier, who were killed at the reservation in 1975.
So 1975 is the year that this whole saga from a law enforcement perspective began on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, which was one of the last Western territories to be colonized and the site of many horrific massacres perpetrated by Custers like General Custer. Now, at that time, on the res in the mid-70s, there was trouble brewing between the Oglala Sioux tribal government and the American Indian movement, of which Peltier was a leading figure.
There was conflict among the tribal government and the American Indian movement. The level of violence had escalated.
And contextually, in the late 60s, early 70s, AIM was something like the native answer to the Black Panthers or the Chicano Brown Berets, an openly armed community activist organization committed to radical sovereignty and unwilling to compromise with the U.S. government, who they believed was committed to their ultimate destruction in the end. Obviously, this paranoia about the government wasn't just a conspiracy theory for AIM members, whose parents and grandparents were mostly sent to residential boarding schools, forced to cut their hair, physically beat if they spoke their native language, and sometimes just murdered, which didn't sit too well with the native youth of the 60s, who through mass media were deeply influenced by the anti-war movement and leftist undercurrents that ran through the hippie and environmental movements. By 1969, the last boarding school closed in South Dakota, and thousands upon thousands were flocking to join AIM, who offered the promise of true sovereignty beyond the limited abilities afforded to tribal councils by the U.S. government, who still exert supreme authority through a federal branch called the Bureau of Indian Affairs, or BIA. Though AIM would call itself anti-colonial, it is also, at this point, considered to be a separatist organization. They want nothing to do with the U.S. government, want their land back in entirety and full governance over that land, which in the early 70s did not sit well with the acting tribal chairman of the Pine Ridge Reservation, a man named Dick Wilson, a kind of lukewarm centrist candidate propped up by the BIA, who, while appreciating the values and way of life that was practiced by the ancestors, was more interested in modernizing the reservation and cooperating with American companies and governments. Peltier and AIM viewed Wilson as a compromised asset of the FBI, CIA, and other enemy organizations, and additionally found evidence that he was embezzling tribal funds to arm a private militia called the Guardians of the Oglala, aka the Goons, who were tasked with violently intimidating his political opponents, including AIM, and anyone considering voting for an opposition candidate. After a failed attempt to impeach Wilson, AIM occupied the town of Wounded Knee, South Dakota in 1973 in protest, which they held for 71 days until the FBI, with the paid help of the Goons, stormed the town with long guns, shooting indiscriminately at AIM members alongside the feds, killing 3, wounding 14, and effectively ending the occupation. While a small victory for the federal government, who obviously wanted to keep native liberation movements at bay, it became a huge L when the optics of the situation hit the press. As the images and videos of Wounded Knee circulated, Peltier and the movement received widespread sympathy from progressive-leaning actors, activists, and public figures like Johnny Cash, Marlon Brando, Angela Davis, Jane Fonda, and Sacheen Littlefeather, who spoke of the incident on stage at the Oscars for the whole country to see.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
Many of Peltier's supporters believe that it was this moment in particular that gave birth to a clear FBI grudge that coincided with over 50 mysterious deaths in and around the Pine Ridge Reservation, many of which were never investigated but loosely attributed to the goon squads, who again, it is proven, work with the FBI.
If you believed Leonard, then you had to understand the rest of the story of what the federal government was doing, which was they were systematically murdering members of an organization that were setting out to highlight the injustice that was occurring on reservations across the country.
A month later, the FBI, quoting the documentation, began a massive buildup of personnel on the Pine Ridge Reservation.
The FBI had kind of ramped up their personnel commitment to stem, hopefully, some of that violence.
The occupation of Wounded Knee is considered the beginning of what Oglala people refer to as the Reign of Terror. During that time, some 64 local Native Americans were murdered. Most of them had ties to AIM. Their deaths went uninvestigated by the FBI.
And I believe Williams or Collier, one of them, was even temporarily assigned to help out, as were some of the other agents. So this was, their response was in response to the violence on the reservation, and part of that response was affecting arrest warrants on Jimmy Eagle.
Now, it was in this context in 1975 that Special Agents Williams and Collier found themselves on the Pine Ridge Reservation, allegedly executing a search warrant for a friend of Peltier's named Jimmy Eagle, who was wanted for petty robbery by the state of South Dakota. According to the FBI, the agents were paralyzed in fear as they drove through the reservation, given the context.
I've known agents who've been assigned to the reservations. You've seen that 1,000-yard stare. It's like someone coming back from combat. I mean, they are exposed to day-to-day violent crime, as bad or worse than any major city. And often they are by themselves, as were Williams and Collier that day.
The Bureau then claims that the two agents were driving along a narrow road toward the Jumping Bull compound, a known AIM hangout, where they spotted a red pickup truck which they falsely believed belonged to Jimmy Eagle and pulled it over.
They're following who they believe in the car is a guy named Jimmy Eagle. As it turns out, in the car was Peltier, Norm Charles, and another individual, a guy named Joe Stuntz.
While Jimmy Eagle was not in the car, Peltier was, who informed the agents that he knew Jimmy, but he'd been exiled from their friend group for being an insane drunk bastard.
Well, they claimed they were there for looking for Jimmy Eagle, and they were told that Jimmy Eagle was not allowed on there because he was a drinker and a troublemaker, and he was not allowed around that area.
But somehow, someway, within 2 minutes of the stop, gunfire erupted on both sides. Agents firing with pistols and several AIM members shooting with rifles, though it's not clear who shot first or if Peltier even fired a gun at all.
We didn't know that they were agents at the time. We didn't have any idea who they were.
You've got two FBI agents there to serve a warrant that they don't have on someone who's not there.
We simply responded by firing back at them, and we got into the best positions we could.
You can debate who shot first. What ends up happening is a gunfight that one side lost horribly badly, outgunned completely. Peltier and his folks had long rifles and open fired from 100+ yards away.
Within a few short moments, Williams and Collier are dead, breaking national news headlines that shook the intelligence community.
We have two young men, 26 years old, doing their job, mowed down in their prime, and nobody in their cause seems to give a damn about that.
Also dead was a Native activist and AIM member named Joe Stuntz, who died on the side of the road. In the wake of the shooting, all involved AIM members fled the scene.
Special Agent Gary Adams reported that a red pickup truck was seen leaving the killing site.
What ensued?
It's honestly just so crazy that the first time when I first started hearing about Wounded Knee, I thought it was like 1910.
So, in Oregon, I think he either bought or stole
5
an
decades
RV,
later, half a
stopped
century.
by an Oregon trooper.
Omni-Bam. Crit.
Fired shots at him and escaped and fled, and ultimately got into Canada.
Some of the head men and chiefs that I should perhaps go to Canada.
He hid out at an Indian reservation there, or Native American reservation there, for the better part of a year, fighting extradition, and held him. Now, Canada, we have extradition treaties with Canada, but depending on the potential penalty, they may be not as willing to extradite somebody who might be facing the death penalty.
Nevertheless, Peltier would be extradited, largely on the basis of 2 affidavits from a supposed eyewitness to the shooting.
I mean, ultimately, it was RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police,
who pulled Peltier out of Alberta and extradited him to U.S. to face 2 murder charges in a federal court.
So he gets arrested in Canada. He gets shipped off to the U.S., held at a facility, and then his trial evidently comes. What was the main defense for Peltier?
Any basic defense, you call into question the integrity of the government witnesses. You call into question the integrity of the government and the FBI agents. You allege that witnesses were coerced.
These affidavits were found to be false, but Peltier was sent back anyway.
You know, you attempt to pull inconsistencies between what a witness may have said in one forum and now what they're testifying to. Again, you question the forensic, the chain of custody.
They wound up with more paper than they could control. They wound up with more paper than I could control.
While Leonard was fighting extradition from Canada, his co-defendants were captured and tried for the murders, but ultimately found completely innocent and acquitted by a jury after they found there was substantial evidence that the group acted in self-defense. But somehow, none of this evidence was allowed to be presented in the federal courtroom, who ultimately found Leonard guilty of both murders, sentencing him to 2 consecutive life terms in federal prison.
The 2 cases that were held against his 2 accomplices, who both were acquitted, and the lack of evidence that was allowed in Leonard's case as related to the lead up to that event on Pine Ridge, where the tribal police force, along with the FBI, had basically created a goon squad. And over 60 individuals had been tribal members and living on the reservation had, I think it was over 60, had been murdered by this goon squad. They were on a mission basically backed by the FBI. And the judge never allowed all of that information, which they had got, into the case when Leonard was tried. And I can't remember all the other inconsistencies, but one of the things that also is that the woman that they said was Leonard's girlfriend, when they were able to extradite him from Canada to the United States, they used her testimony to justify the extradition from Canada. Once they got him back, she completely recanted and said that she was basically threatened by the FBI to say that she was Leonard Peltier's girlfriend and that she witnessed the whole thing, when in fact they hardly even knew each other. She had lived on the reservation but didn't have any relationship to Leonard. But there's a whole bunch of other inconsistencies.
On a deeper level, what do you think it was about Leonard that scared the federal government in such capacity?
You know, that's a good question. I think that we are in such a ahistorical, is that even the term, time right now? I know why they want to erase history. I know why they don't want to teach about the actual history of this country, because to do so makes a lie out of almost everything that they are trying to achieve.
One of the theories, or these conspiracy theories, is that, well, Peltier may or may not have even been there. The government framed him.
They have 2 dead agents, and they want someone to answer for it.
And even if he was there, he certainly wasn't the one who was shooting and killing.
Everyone talks about martyr status. We want him to have a fair trial where an independent jury would get all of the evidence, not just that which the FBI wants them to get, while withholding that which exonerates.
No fewer than 22 judges reviewed that conviction. He was convicted by a jury of his peers, and every president since has denied pardoning him or commutating his sentence. Only at whatever it was, 11/15 on January 19th, his sentence commutated by then President Biden. I think the message clearly is violence works. If you're part of a group that has a legitimate beef and they're sympathetic, right? I mean, for anybody, it's a sympathetic group. I mean, you go on a reservation, it's sad.
It is widely considered to be the poorest place in the United States.
And then you get certain parts of the media, and you get Hollywood behind your cause.
Leonard Peltier should be released from prison.
You can succeed like this. Now, again, he did a lot of time in jail, but the message is you can get away with murder or ultimately not pay the ultimate price for the murder.
The system believes that resistance sits at the head, take one person down, that it's done. But like what we see out here, all these kids, all these elders, like it's in the body.
We are not free as a people until Leonard is free.
His only true activism was getting himself out of jail. Peltier was a thug who hijacked the AIM.
You were a part of the gang that killed him.
Well, we weren't a gang, for one thing. The agency that we're speaking about right here was not totally innocent of crimes themselves on the reservation.
The
right voice can bring your story to life.
Craft unique voices with just a prompt.
And transform your audiobooks, videos, and games.
Create a voice that stands out from the crowd and demands attention.
When I started Walton Goggins Goggle Glasses, I needed a website. Figuring out how to make one was pretty hard on the old noggin. But with GoDaddy Aero, I can just tell it what I want. And it uses AI to make a website so fast it pretty much blows my noggin. This is working. With a beautiful design that'll blow my customers' noggins. Which allowed me to focus my noggin on making more goggins to put on their noggins. Which were just metaphorically blown. Look like you know what you're doing at GoDaddy.com.
The agency was the FBI.
Let's go back to the late 1960s. What can you tell us about COINTELPRO?
COINTELPRO was a covert FBI program originally launched in the 1950s.
There's been a lot of reviews and criticism, probably rightly so, about COINTELPRO, which was short for Counterintelligence Program, a fancy name for something that really has kind of always been around.
The program was a series of secret FBI initiatives targeting activists, political, and minority groups.
We had won World War II, we had the 50s and what was theoretically the American dream. There was a war going on in Vietnam, which was effectively a war against communism. And at that time, we were losing every week 70, 80 Americans. Think about that now. On the other side of the world, you had the Soviet Union, who was perceived as our biggest threat, and probably was so. I mean, they were good at, as they are now, fomenting unrest and discord within American society.
Special Agent Graham concedes that while it is true that the FBI operated extrajudicially in the fog of the Red Scare during the late 60s, it's also true that many American counterculture groups they targeted were being propped up by the Soviet Union, which I find to be very interesting. Looking back at the records of daily newspapers from Moscow, you can see that Peltier's face was plastered on the front page almost every week for 3 consecutive years with headlines about America being a rotten, crooked place.
It's a face which on the other side of the world, in the Soviet Union, is as familiar as Ronald Reagan's.
Declaring Peltier a political prisoner and sometimes using exact copy that was used to describe Nelson Mandela when he was arrested in South Africa.
Political prisoner in the heart of America. That's the Soviet message.
It's not.
And on television, the Soviets follow Peltier the way Americans keep track of dissidents like Sakharov or Sharansky.
Simultaneously, the Peltier story received almost no coverage in the States, falling to the wayside as Americans were absorbed by the death of Elvis Presley, the tragic plane crash involving Leonard Skinner, and George Lucas' first Star Wars movie. The Soviets were even flying Peltier's family and friends to Russia for press conferences and televised interviews.
Stephanie Autumn was Peltier's common-law wife.
I've gone over testimony. I've talked to almost everyone that was there that day, and I know that Leonard is innocent.
Last year, she and 2 other supporters took their cause to the Soviet Union.
In a Cold War context, this media attention definitely only deepened the FBI's grudge against Peltier, who they saw as an avatar in the Soviet effort to sow internal discord and governmental distrust amongst American citizens.
So you feel like, to a certain extent, the Soviet Union played a role in sowing some of the discord in the late 60s?
I believe so. What better way to beat a society than erode it from the inside and have that society fighting against itself? It's probably easier now for them. You have social media, you got the internet, but a lot of the same tactics, just publicizing perceived wrongs by the government.
We went to the Soviet Union because Indians going to the Soviet Union gets media attention.
And he is innocent.
Task correspondent in Washington, Igor Ignatieff, covers the story.
You have to look at the activities of the FBI and the people doing COINTELPRO through that prism of what they were confronting at the time. You had a war effectively against communism. American GIs are losing their lives weekly in the jungles of Southeast Asia. Protests in the U.S., the Weathermen, Black Panthers, violent protests that had
Wait, why do I have Phantom Dance? I meant to get
so,
fucking
in the
Flicker
60s,
Blade.
You had
Fucking,
some of these movements. Maybe their ultimate motive and goals were honorable and just. Sometimes the activities they undertook to achieve those goals were pretty troubling.
I was wondering why I didn't feel quite as good as
AIM
they
had taken over Alcatraz, they had taken over BIM, they had the Mayflower. So there was these protests had gone a little off the rails. You had other groups. You had the American Communist Party, you had the Black Panthers, you had these groups that were sending fear through traditional American society. I'm not justifying their illegal wiretaps of Martin Luther King or anything like that. But it is not as sinister as some would like the world to believe. And certainly, I think what our adversaries would want to that message.
Sentenced to.
Oh my god, I raged so hard at fucking. What the fuck did I do? That tilted the fuck out of me. Jesus Christ, what happened? My crash out was insane apparently. Lost that vid.
Was insane.
Tucker
Best
Carlson said I'm a weird gay kid in the basement.
Has it occurred to you that, and I just want to say, I haven't watched a lot of Nick Fuentes in my life at all.
I think I probably actually might have won that
the
with
guy's very talented.
Quicksilver,
just
whatever it's called.
Well, let me just say this. As someone who's talked to cameras his whole life, it is very hard to sit and just like riff for 20 minutes. And I think it's an amazing skill, and he has that skill. But I also have noticed that his targets are all people who are sincere, non-crazy, non-hateful opponents of neocon politics.
Right.
So you have to kind of wonder about
Maybe because he doesn't like neocon politics.
that. So Nick Fuentes is like, oh, I don't like the neocons. But then his targets are J.D. Vance, Joe Kent. He got involved in Joe Kent's campaign with a super. Oh, yes. You, me. And it's like, what is that?
Dave Smith.
Dave.
And I asked him about that because that's a question that I had. So I did the right thing by asking him to his
What an
face, what's up with
absolute
this? Like, why do you attack Dave
incredible
Smith? You
combination,
say
these
that like your
two.
biggest critique is that
And
America's being
the
controlled
fact
by
that
Israel, then you have Dave Smith,
simp for
who's been
basically
such
anything
a
they say is
sound
kind
voice.
of
And by the way,
nasty.
opposite experience with Dave Smith. Have my podcast. He's a fantastic human being. I judge
Dave
people.
Smith is one of the nicest people
Fantastic
ever.
human.
Yes.
And so I judge people according to my experiences with them. And so Nick is being judged according to my experience with him.
But like, what is this?
I don't
And
get
where
it.
does
I don't
the funding
understand
come
it.
from? I probably shouldn't even say this, but the only reason I know who he is because someone sent me a video.
Somebody thinks that Nick is getting funded by somebody else. Nick can't even make a fucking bank account.
Hello again. Am I really moving to New
I really
York
liked the
City?
first few seasons of Dexter. Kind of felt like you
You
got.
don't need a lot of funding to
repetitive
just get a
fell off.
background and talk to a camera.
First season
you
was
don't
so
need
good.
a lot. How much did this fucking cost? Because if it was more than $1,000, you got to talk to somebody about that. Yeah, I mean, you don't need to get funded in order to just have a because he had this studio in his house. That's how whenever that crazy person showed up to his house to kill him, it interrupted his stream. That's the whole reason.
A few years ago of him attacking me, and I was like, so I'm looking at this, and I'm like, well, first of all, this kid's really talented, like legit, and I can assess that just having done the job for so long. So it's like, wow, lots of talent, native talent, and he's attacking my dad as a CIA, his dad's in the CIA or whatever, and I'm like, well, that's no, untrue. Then my father dies, and I learn actually, was involved in that world. I was completely shocked by it. So no one has to believe me, but that's just a fact.
Right.
This was in March of this year.
Sure.
And I'm like, well, how the hell would this child from Chicago? My dad was 84 when he passed. Like, who does this guy know who my dad is? And like, he's in the intelligence world. How would he know that? And I
Wait, so that was his critique?
So he's trying to imply that Nick's a Fed? Is that it?
Because I didn't see it. It was like, he's
someone just sent me this video and it was like, you can't believe anything Carlson says because his father was in the CIA and he's a CIA working on behalf of the CIA. Well, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, and I actually feel emotional in my anger towards CIA. And I think that comes out on the air quite regularly.
Right.
And so the idea that I'm working for the CIA is like deranged.
Well, if it helps, he said I was.
That's pretty fucking weird. I don't think so. I mean, hasn't Nick said that about a bunch of people?
Funded by Russia. Now, since the interview, he then did a thing and said I was funded by Russia.
Would be
yeah. So like he's accused. Like this is the same as like it's kind of like he's said that about people before. I mean, like yeah, it's the same as like me killing a boss and saying, oh, the mount's gonna drop this time. Eventually, I'm right.
Okay.
A lot more likely to take Russian money than I would be to work for the CIA, because you would never take Russian money, and you're not Russian. But I mean, I really hate the CIA, and I mean, I would. I mean, that's like very offensive to me. So why would you?
It's like personal for you.
Well, a little bit.
Yeah.
And anyway, like, who is this kid exactly?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's just an accident that the guy exclusively goes after people who are in the same, roughly the same. And then he gets up there and he's like, but I mean, I really hate the CIA. And I mean, I would. I mean, that's like very offensive to me. So why would you?
It's like personal for you.
Well, a little bit.
Yeah.
And anyway, like, who is this kid exactly?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's just an accident that the guy exclusively goes after people who are in the same, roughly the same. And then he gets up there and he's like, making Holocaust jokes. And it's like, is it possible that this is like David Duke? And David Duke, every time I had a new show, David Duke would endorse my show. I don't know. Who the hell is David Duke? Well, David Duke is obviously part of a campaign to discredit people on the right.
I don't know whether what is the status on Tucker Carlson taking money from Qatar? Because I hear that a lot, but I hear a lot of stuff a lot. He hasn't, zero evidence? Okay, there's not. Okay, so people aren't really sure. I think that there's a lot of people that probably, once you reach a certain level of notoriety, the value of your opinion is noticed by others. And sometimes that value is not communicated in a monetary amount. Sometimes it's communicated in opportunities. It's communicated, like Tucker Carlson's super rich. Yeah, I think so. Like, he married into the family of the Swanson fucking frozen food company, right? So like Tucker Carlson is like probably a fucking, like, he's gonna inherit billions of dollars at some point, right? And so, like, there's no reason for him to take money.
And I think it's very obvious that Nick Fuentes is exactly the same. Doesn't mean everything he says is false. It doesn't mean he's not talented. He's enormously talented. Doesn't mean he's a bad person. I'm not attacking him personally. But he is clearly part of a campaign to discredit non-crazy right voices. That's obvious to me. I've been around a long time. I know it when I see it.
Yeah, and I will say I don't understand it. We were very kind to him. Like
I think that that's not always. I mean, he's criticized tons of people. He's been on debates with plenty of people that are left wing. Also, I don't think this is an accurate summary of this. I think obviously, like, he's going to be looking at conservatives and talking more about them very clearly because he thinks that they're the ones that are kind of the gatekeepers of him. So he's going to be at odds with them more often. He debated Steven Crowder? Yeah, but he also debated Dean Withers. He's talked with a bunch of people.
Truly, like, we almost said, like, we felt maybe he was a bit lonely. We should invite him back for dinner. I mean, that's how good of an experience I had.
Clearly it's
and then it was a 180. So it's either A, it's being driven from, like, a little boy insecurity, and he just was so worried that he, like, just went on the attack because he doesn't know how to have normal relations after being banned everywhere.
Well, I think there's
that could be one element.
The angry gay kid thing going on.
Yeah, or it's the...
He's just a mad little gay boy. Damn, bro, is that where we at? Shit.
Could be one element.
The angry gay kid thing going on.
Yeah, or it's what you're saying, where he does this, he's lying to everybody and pretending that things are one way when it's not. I can say
Why is he attacking Joe Kent, who... I mean, Joe Kent worked as a CIA contractor, paramilitary contractor. He was in the U.S. military for years fighting our neocon wars. And his wife was killed in Syria in one of those wars. Joe Kent is the single most sincere critic, and I would say the one with the most credibility in the United States to say this foreign policy is bad. It killed my wife. I was a part of it. Joe Kent is actually someone the CIA doesn't like at all because he understands how it operates. And for Nick Fuentes, who's like some child from Chicago, to go after him specifically, one congressional seat in Washington State.
That is random.
It's not random, though. It's the opposite of random. Joe Kent.
So Tucker Carlson thinks that he's bought and paid for, and it's all a fucking conspiracy. And Nick Fuentes is like a paid plant that is put there in order to discredit neoconservatism and make them more radicalized. That's what he's saying.
At Kroger, you never compromise. You get up high quality that's guaranteed fresh and down low prices, saving you 20% or more.
Yeah, exactly, guys. I read that on the back of the dollar bill. It's the triangle.
Kent was number one on the list of people they wanted to knock off, people who believe in our neocon foreign policy. They wanted Joe Kent out because he could stand up and say, I actually know. I've got the receipts. My wife was killed in Syria. You had to take that guy out. And
You're misunderstanding him. Tucker's trying to say Nick attacks only anti-neocon voices.
Fuentes, this child, this weird little gay kid in his basement in Chicago, is participating in a super PAC to bump off a gay kid in his basement. You had to take that guy out. And Nick Fuentes, this child, this weird little gay kid in his basement in Chicago, is participating in got the receipts. My wife was killed in Syria. You had to take that guy out. And Nick Fuentes, this child, this weird little gay kid in his basement in Chicago, is participating in a super PAC to bump off Joe Kent.
Wow.
Like, I've been around this my whole life. I know what that is. It's just an organized effort.
Yeah.
And he also did the thing that David Duke always did, including to me, which is be like, oh, yeah, it's my friend. And everyone's like, oh, Tucker Carlson's been endorsed by David Duke. I've been making, like, the anti-racist argument my whole life.
Right.
Like, I'm not for David Duke. Do I think David Duke is right when
he's a leader of the KKK, by the way?
Against affirmative action? You bet I do. But I'm not for David Duke. But David Duke would try to discredit people by hugging them. And that's exactly what Fuentes did. He goes out there, meet all these people, show up, hi, I'm Nick Fuentes, can I get my picture with you? That's a campaign to destroy credible voices on the right. And Fuentes is part of it. And I know I'm inviting endless trouble by saying this because, you know, this is a kid with a lot of spare time, but it's just a fact. And I've seen it a lot.
Yeah.
And I you can believe me or not, but I know what I'm talking about.
So he called him a little old gay boy, and he said that he's paid by some sort of foreign interest or something like that. Somebody's paying him. The CIA is paying him. There's some degree of bad behavior that's going on. Literally no arguments. Well, I think that there is a lot of insinuation, and this is kind of what happens. I mean, this is a mainstream media thing, right? Where, like, you don't necessarily say something that's bad about a person, but what you do is you make an implication. And the implication, Nick did a 3-hour response. Can I watch that? Like, there's this video. It is 22... Because Nick says words that get me in trouble. Can I watch this one or not? He always uses gamer language, unless he talks about race. Okay. If he starts bringing up race, we're going to get worried, okay?
I'm being accused of being the CIA by Peter Thiel's best boys, by Tucker Carlson with his daddy. Tucker Carlson's, and you know what? Here's the other thing. Tucker Carlson said I'm a weird gay kid in the basement. Yeah, and I'm from Chicago. You're right. Well, okay, you're not right about all of that. But I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. Tucker Carlson says, I have so many trust funds, I never have to work. Tucker went to a $45,000 per year private high school, then a $45,000 per year selective Ivy League school in New England.
Jesus.
Tucker Carlson's daddy was a Reagan appointee.
Wow.
And then, after years of bragging about being an elite, bragging about being so out of touch and so rich, now he's going to be the spokesperson for all the white people. Now he's going to roll up his sleeves. I just like to hunt and fish in my log cabin. I care about...
I think that there's a lot of LARPing going on, and this is something that happens with a lot of people. And it sounds weird, but this is one of the reasons why I do not indulge in a lot of other, like, luxuries that other people that are in my position do indulge in. It's because I don't want to live a life that is an abstraction from what the average person goes through every day, because it makes me harder to relate to, it makes me harder to understand other people's stuff, etc. And I think that this is something that's not unique to Tucker Carlson. It's something that's not unique to right-wing people. It's a general thing. It's like how all the Democrats got together in a luxury hotel, spent $20 million to discuss how they could get through to working-class Americans. That's basically where it is. Bro, you're just lazy? Well, it's a little bit more than that. Makes it harder? Yeah. Sure.
A Klarna.
To argue you're LARPing poor knowing it should fail if there's a safety net, it's never the same? No, you're right. Absolutely. My experience as somebody who has money is going to be different than the experience of somebody who doesn't have money. Obviously. And I never hide that. That's the thing. Is like, how many other streamers show their revenue? Nobody. Really.
And credit card debt. But then when it comes to me, I'm one of the real disaffected white people. You want to talk about me and them? I am them. He says Nick Fuentes is leading all of the disaffected young white men. I am a disaffected young white man. I was a precocious, intelligent, young white college student who went to Boston University, who was pro-Trump and red-pilled by Trump and animated by Trump's message of America first. And I asked questions about Israel, and I was punished for it. I did it years before Tucker Carlson started talking about it.
I think this is what happens. And like with Nick, this is the same thing, is that more and more people that try to express dissent at all end up getting kicked out, and it radicalizes them even more. And I think this is what's happened with a lot of different voices on all types of the political spectrum, is that you have somebody that wants to ask questions about like obvious inconsistencies or problems, right? It's things like, for example, you know, how is it America first if we're doing things that are in Israel's best interest? That is a legitimate, real question. It's not an anti-Semitic question. It's not an illegal question. It's not hate speech. It's genuine, honest, reasonable, and fair. And if you can't ask that question and they can't answer that question, that says a lot more about them than it does about you. Why is he so personal about this? Well, because Tucker Carlson called him a little gay boy from Chicago. I mean, I feel like that's kind of fair, right? I mean, you want to be personal. Personal is going to go both ways.
Real last year. And I sacrificed, and I was targeted by the ADL, by the SPLC, by the federal government, by the conservative movement that both Candace and Tucker were a part of. Candace and Tucker had nothing to say about Israel until it became unavoidable last year. Not popular, but unavoidable. And now they want to gatekeep me out and do this personality attack and say I'm a bitter loser in my basement from Chicago. I'm a kid from Chicago. And they slipped up there because they forgot for 1 second that they're pretending to be the spokesperson for exactly that kind of person. Tucker's mask slipped, and he forgot for a minute that for 8 years he's been pretending to care about the plight of weird kids in their parents' basement who are broke and didn't go to an Ivy League school, living in cities that don't matter like Chicago, not like Washington, D.C. or L.A. or New York.
I think Nick is right about this, by the way. He is. And the fact is that there's a lot of guys out there, and this is where you're seeing a lot of this online resurgence and a lot of this online right-wing tilt. I think it's primarily from disaffected young men. Primarily. And you see this constantly. This is why if you look at demographics, like if I can just pull this up real quick, support for Trump, Gen Z by gender.
I can tell that she has a great sense of humor, but she hasn't told me a joke yet.
Want a career as a pet psychic? We're not the school for you. Want a career-focused degree that's fast, flexible, and affordable? Apply now at post.edu. Post University.
Experience contracts simplified with AI Assistant. Clarify content in a click and understand all the key terms. Just like that. Adobe Acrobat Pro.
So if I can just show you real quick what this image is here, If I can find this, Trump support among young men varies surprisingly. Where's the new one here? A significant gender divide among Gen Z voters. Now, this is obviously a later one. A lot more men. Look at that. 40% of men support Trump versus 26% of women. This is a massive gender divide. A gigantic gender divide. Like, it's almost double. And so really, I think that definitely there are, those are the people that are consuming this content. It is young guys that have been disaffected, disenfranchised, and they feel like the country no longer puts their interests first. They feel like the country puts the interests of Israel first. They feel like the country puts the interests of immigrants first. They feel like the country puts the interests of women first. And that's not even necessarily a bad thing, but whenever you have opportunities where, you know, you want to go to college, you have equality, well, if you have equality, then why are women getting preferential treatment? The biggest beneficiaries of DEI aren't black people, it's white women. That's right. And companies first, exactly. So these are the reasons why I think that, yes, a lot of the guys that I think that watch Nick are disaffected young guys around his age that probably feel the exact same way. I don't think it's all American. I think there's a lot of Europeans there too, but it's very common.
And that's why he had such disdain and contempt for me in that moment. Between the personality attacks, he's lonely, he's weird, he lives in a basement. I'm sorry, did you guys forget that that's your target audience that you're trying to pander to?
I'm glad he just admits it. Yes, a lot of the people, this is the same thing I said with the relationship content, is that a lot of the people that I know that are happily married and they have kids and they have no problems, do you know what they're doing? Not posting on the internet about it. They're not going out and giving relationship advice and talking about how all women are whores or how they're not whores. They're not talking or thinking about it at all. They're out there with their wife taking care of their kids. So you have a selection bias here that happens where a lot of the people, when Ethan did those subpoenas, how is it that every single person that got their information leaked was in their 30s, unemployed, and living with their parents?
That is pretty wild.
That's crazy. Wow. Dog walkers, yeah, a lot of coincidences. Yeah, those are the people that are consuming this content. Absolutely. And the reason why is because a lot of the people that are disaffected, angry, and in their basement, the reason why that they're watching these videos is because they're there in the first place. If they had a successful job, if they were happy, if society treated them in a way that they thought were fair, or they had outcomes that they thought were preferential, then they wouldn't be there consuming the content to begin with. That's what's going on. And this is, again, this isn't something that's unique to Nick. This is something that's true with all political commentary. Because most political commentary on the internet starts with a grievance, and then it basically is saying that you have this problem in your life because of this system. And in some cases, they're right. But at the end of the day, it attracts a lot of people that have problems and that are looking for ways to find out why that problem is happening in their life. That's it.
Did you forget that for 2 seconds? And I'm the inauthentic person? I am that person. I am a spokesman for the disaffected white man because I am one, and you two are not. Candace Owens got married to British royalty worth $200 million after meeting him for 2 weeks on Zoom. What the fuck is even that about? And Tucker Carlson's dad ran the CIA's propaganda empire fighting the Soviet Union. He went and fought with the Contras when he was in college. When I was in college, I was doing a webcam show in my friend's dorm room criticizing Israel. So who's the CIA cutout? Who's the inauthentic one? Who's the crazy, hateful one? I would never describe a well-meaning young white person who's trying to get ahead as a weird kid in his basement from Chicago. And what is that supposed to mean? What is wrong with being from Chicago?
I think that there's also a component to it as well, and this is true with any media personality, is that a lot of media personalities try to downplay each other because of market share. They don't want to see up-and-comers, like get attention over them. They don't want to see people get any degree of notoriety in a way that they don't have or in a way that they can't achieve. And so when they see somebody doing well or succeeding, they oftentimes try to make fun of them and laugh at them or, make them look bad. I think another parallel to this is, remember all of the, Twitch-centric streamers that were dogging on and making fun of Aiden Ross in like 2021? And like everybody was joking around like, oh, this guy's an idiot, he's a loser, like he's dumb, etc. Like it's very common. And again, the reason why is that it's gatekeeping. I think that there's a tremendous amount of gatekeeping in media. And also that explains the friendly fire. Because people, like, I'm not, like, theoretically, like, a lot of people that watch me aren't going to go and watch somebody like fucking Mike from PA or Hassan. Because we just have different viewpoints and we talk about things differently. They're going to watch somebody who has similar viewpoints to mine, but they differ slightly. So really, if you look at it from a self-preservationist point of view, it would make sense why they would attack each other that are inside of the same sphere. Do you see what I'm saying here?
Wrong with being weird? What is wrong with living in your basement? That's a lot of people because of the problems you claim to care about.
Yeah.
Tucker's at Turning Point USA extolling the predatory nature of usury and how it's preventing young white men from getting homes. And then the week after says you're in your mom's basement. So which is it? Do you care about Klarna and people going into debt to order pizzas and home ownership being impossible?
I think I took a little burn damage I could have dodged.
It's actually crazy. People are ordering DoorDash on credit now. They're ordering DoorDash on payment plans.
That's absolutely insanity. Crumbling society, failures of economic understanding, finance.
It's really, really bad. I don't see Nick cooking even remotely here. He's acting if he doesn't say anything inflammatory. He isn't antagonizing this kind of response. It's very disingenuous. Well, I'll give my opinion to it at the end.
Or do you think that's a contemptible, low-status thing to be ridiculed and mocked?
I think that what Nick is really saying here is that Tucker Carlson, his primary audience, and a lot of the people that he's representing are young, disaffected men. But when he attacks Nick as basically, he attacks Nick with characteristics of young, disaffected men, it effectively reveals that he doesn't really care about them in the first place. I think that's what Nick is trying to say.
Pandering here, exactly.
It's a class issue.
That wasn't you.
Yes, it's a class issue, unironically.
You were born to the Swanson family fortune, and your daddy who ran the CIA.
He married into it, to be fair.
You know, my dad didn't even graduate
Moved
college.
that bitch in college.
My dad worked for the tollway. His dad died of a drug overdose in the 70s. My mother's father was a garbage man in Chicago, and he committed suicide. He was a veteran of World War II. Who's the CIA cutout? Who's the poser? Who is America? I am America. Chicago is America. That's an American story. I didn't go to Yale Law School and suck Peter Thiel's dick and then get a sinecure at a venture capital firm advising Rebecca Mercer and writing Hillbilly Elegy and talking about it at the Aspen Institute. That's your biographical credibility? How many of these disaffected white people that love Trump because he's racist went to Yale Law School and got plucked out by Peter Thiel, whoever he even is?
Probably not a lot of them.
Peter Thiel with his fixation with the Antichrist. This homosexual who's involved with the CIA, who wants to live forever and govern the world with AI, Yeah, that's really relatable. That's really relatable. Do another show with him and Curtis Yarvin.
To be fair, I think Peter Thiel's great. He names all of his all of his companies after Lord of the Rings stuff. He funded that lawsuit to kill Gawker. Like, yeah, I think he's great. You know, funded Palantir, etc. And the Senate, yeah, he's crashing. No, he's pissed off, right? He is. He's mad. And I'll let me finish. I'll let it finish.
Do another show. Do the 47th show with JD Vance. It is insulting, and it is insulting to everybody's intelligence for Tucker to sit there and say he doesn't know his dad is in the...
I think that Nick is also mask-offing right now that a lot of these different identity struggles are actually class struggles in disguise. And you can probably notice that right now with like what Nick is saying, is that Tucker Carlson is criticizing Nick for things and attributes that are held by not people that are white, black, or anything. They're held by people that are poor without resources. And I think that's what's really radicalized a lot of people like Nick, and also a lot of people that are on the left wing too. They've been radicalized by these social issues and these identity issues, but the majority of these identity issues are actually class issues at heart. And you see that by the way that they insult each other. Because why would you insult a person based off of something that you don't care about and you don't think that they care about? So it's like, why would you do that? Well, obviously it's because either they care about it or you think that, you know, the other person cares about it. That's it.
CIA?
It's a class issue.
For him to say that I'm in the CIA? What a joke. What a sick joke. Especially after everything that's happened to me. And unlike what Candace Owens says, she says, what happened to him when he was 18? What happened to me is ongoing. Okay? Unlike Candace Owens and Tucker, I never got a contract with Ben Shapiro and Rupert Murdoch. I was on Maker Support. I was on Patreon. I was on D Live.
Patreon, by the way, little fun fact, little, lore connection here. Patreon also was debanked, and they had the same problems. Dick Masterson talked about that. I think he tweeted at me about it, and they had the exact same issues. So the same problems that these video game companies are running into are the same problems that I think that he had for a long time. Dick Masterson. No, that's his. Well, I don't know if that's his real name, but that's what he uses on the internet. Okay, it's fucked. Yeah. Why is he so mad? Let me, he's almost done.
I had to fight for everything I have. I didn't get $1 million contract from Turning Point. I didn't get $20 million from Fox News. My daddy didn't get me a job in Arkansas.
Hello again. Be careful. There are
They always put the ads right when the round starts.
So ridiculous.
Can't get the best of me, though.
So I think that the reason why Nick is mad is that Nick views Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens as people that are effectively reinforcing the class dynamic. And I think that's part of it, right? Is that effectively these are people who have had every opportunity in the world, and now they're looking down and making fun of him because he hasn't had every opportunity in the world. And I think that what he's saying is that reveals the fact that this actually isn't about, helping young people or anything like that. It's about maintaining a class dynamic. It's a betrayal, right? It's a direct betrayal of the disaffected people that they're trying to represent and that they say that they represent. And I think also Nick has been kicked off of everything. He was banned on Twitter forever. And so, really for him, whenever it's two people that are very noteworthy in media that are trying to discredit him again, obviously he's going to get super defensive because he's been discredited, he's been deplatformed, he's been kicked off different things. And so when he sees people that are kind of getting together and joking around about doing it again, he's obviously going to get defensive. That's really what it is. And I feel like, again, you would have never had this situation if you just simply listened to what people's perspectives are. Why was he deplatformed? I don't remember exactly why it was. It was years ago. And so that's basically what's going on. As he should, just follow the TOS. It is that hard. I think, in my opinion, the terms of service should be just simply the law. Like, and like, if a company wants to have that, then obviously they can do that. But it's very obvious that people like Nick were banned because they had a certain political viewpoint. And now that, you know, I think anybody can be on Twitter, crazy leftists and crazy right-wing people, you're not seeing that same problem manifest itself. So I think that really what you're looking at here is that it is a, like, I don't care about the TOS, but if you want me to care about it, you have to apply it evenly to everybody. So that's it, being critical of Israel. Yes, and Israel exercises a tremendous amount of power. They do. And I think that it's insane to me that Israel has its own political action committee here in America. It's insane that we have people, like, people stood up and clapped at the last Netanyahu speech in America. They stood up and clapped more for that than they did for the State of the Union. This is an unhealthy overreach, and any reasonable person can see that. It's not anti-Semitic to say that. It's not against Jews to say that. It's about a country, not a group of individuals. That's the problem. And so, true? No, a ban incoming? No, absolutely not. Don't you know that, you know, like, that not on Twitch, maybe somewhere else. And so, yeah, we don't control the world, deletes your accounts and debanks you. Yeah, clearly, right? And so I think that's the reason why Nick got super defensive about it. I mean, again, I think if Tucker Carlson wants to assume or, like, accuse Nick of being, you know, like, and it's a little bit of kind of like you're kind of saying both things, right? If he's being funded by these external sources, then why is he doing it from his basement? If he has these external abilities to, like, you know, be successful, and there's some sort of shadow that's, like, you know, controlling him in the back, then why is he doing it in his basement? So, like, you're saying that he has no status, but you're also saying that he's being used by people with status. It doesn't, like, which one is it? He's definitely not unpopular. Yeah, exactly, because it's effective. I don't really think that it necessarily is or isn't. I don't, like, if Nick Fuentes was in, like, a big studio, I don't think that would really affect things. Are we good?
Noonan's back to full HP.
We had a little bit of a hiccup, a little bit of a situation. You know, I know what's really, really funny about that? Not a single person on Kick had that problem. It's only Twitch that has these problems. It is insane the amount of issues that Twitch has with their service. It is so fucking annoying to me. APAC is jamming you? Yeah, definitely. And sure. And suspicious as soon as you started speaking about Israel? Yeah, right, exactly. And anyway, so that's really kind of the way that I feel about it. I think in general, Nick is definitely right about one thing, that the primary consuming audience of people that... The primary consuming audience of alt-right or right-wing viewpoints on the internet from people like Nick Fuentes or Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens, the primary audience are disaffected young men. That's it. And so if you're Tucker Carlson and you're joking around making fun of them, I think that you have misunderstood your audience. That's definitely what's going on. Yeah, Twitch doesn't like a certain topic. No, I don't think that's what it was. As funny as it would be, I don't think that's really what's happening. And it's not that big of a fucking deal. And what is this here? Let me go back. I'll see if I can find a few more of these here. Fuck is this? Okay. Anyway, yeah, clip that someone. Yeah, definitely. They call the anti-Semitic, not a liar. I mean, again, like I don't think anybody's really calling me anti-Semitic. It's weird, as I said earlier, right? People are in. There's a perpetual argument about whether I am a Jew or a Nazi, and I think that nobody really knows. There's still arguments about that, and people still aren't sure which one it is. It's very annoying, but that's pretty much what's happening. And let me go back. I'll see if I can find a few more of these here, but where the fuck did it go? And I'll see if I can pull this one up in a minute. Yeah, there it is, you're based. Well, I just try, listen, here's what I try to do. I try to be fair. I try to understand things, and I try to get a good idea of what's happening and what's not happening. That's all. That's the only thing I try to do. And I know that there's a lot of people that might not like that, or they might want me to talk about it in a certain way. But I feel like over time, this has happened many, many times, I have continued to be consistent. I have continued to be consistent about things, and people get mad about it. But at the end of the day, I don't really think it matters that much. Like, let's be honest. But you stick up for Zoomer incels? I stick up for people that I think are being mistreated and people that are being misrepresented. I think that's what I do more than anything. Obviously, whether
liberal.
it's Zoomer, incels, or anything else, I don't really care. The only thing that I care about is making sure that, you know, people get a fair shake more than anything, right? Roach Defender? Yeah, definitely. And I've been called gay, Jews, Nazi. Yeah, I've been called everything. I mean, let's be honest, right? Everybody has all kinds of these like weird, crazy opinions about me. And that's what happens, right? Like, I'm not worried about that. I'm not mad about that. It doesn't upset me that it's happening. It's just simply the way it is. Yeah, that's all there is to it. You know, you're fair and neutral if everybody claims that you're attacking either side. Yeah, and I think that's the reason why I cover a lot of the like controversial topics, controversial people, because I think that if I don't cover it in a fair way, nobody will cover it in a fair way. And that's what's continued to happen more and more. Yeah, if I don't have both sides attacking me, then I'm probably doing something wrong. I think that's generally the way that I look at it.
Oh my God.
It sounds crazy, but that's where I'm at.
The right voice can bring your story to life.
Craft unique voices with just a prompt.
And transform your audiobooks, videos, and games.
Create a voice that stands out from the crowd and demands attention.
If I got to that portal. If I got to the portal, I have so much shred. That's tragic.
With Ashley's
Whoever voted for
next-gen
no
Umbrella
revives,
Performance fabric,
suck dick.
you can relax. These pieces are easy to clean, and some styles feature machine washable covers.
Complete failures. We've tried establishment Republicans, complete failures. We tried fake populism under Donald Trump, complete failure.
I disagree.
So the only thing we haven't tried is left-wing populism. And you say, don't try it. Go back to the establishment Democrats. Are you crazy?
You can't vote Democrat and then say that, well, because they still support the rich and the rich still get all the tax cuts, I'm still going to cast my vote, which is the most powerful political weapon you have, to the very establishment that you're on one hand trying to tear down.
That's just weird to mention guardrails against firing people when you rejected a union at your company and fired somebody for organizing.
Yeah, that is absolutely not true. You can say that if you like.
That is true. Look it up.
Fine. So since you smeared me, let's explain. Hi, I'm Cenk Uygur. I'm host of the Young Turks, live weekdays, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. I'm also the head of the TYT Network. I'm also founder of Just Democrats, Wolfpack, and Rebellion Pack, where we're trying to bring the country together. And here I am surrounded by 20 Democrats and Republicans, and I'm going to try to bring them together. Claim number one is that Democrats and Republicans agree on economic issues and try to divide us and distract us with culture wars.
How are you, Cenk? Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
My name's Oliver.
Hey, Oliver.
Yeah. So I guess the first place I want to start off with your claim is to first say that I think there's a grain of truth in it, and I think I would largely agree that when it comes to the system of neoliberalism, the system of capitalism, I think there can be a lot of overlap. I think where I would probably push back a little bit is when we look specifically at what policy issues get passed and how they affect people, there seems to be a very big difference. So for example, under the Biden administration, we saw with the expansion of the Affordable Care Act and Medicaid, we saw over 8 million people become eligible for Medicaid who were previously not eligible. If we contrast that right now with what's in Trump's big beautiful bill, over a 10-year period, that would make between 15 and 16 million people ineligible for Medicaid. So it seems a crucial economic issue that affects people's ability to survive, have quality health care, live quality lives. There seems to be a stark contrast. So I'm just wondering your thoughts on that.
So where I would disagree is the word stark. So I understand there is a contrast. That's why I vote Democrat. But these are giant buts here. So first of all, they say on Medicare, we should negotiate drug prices.
Actually.
The Democrats say, and then they never deliver. They didn't even try to negotiate drug prices other than on insulin and maybe 10 other drugs. And you go, well, that's pretty good. No, that's 10 drugs out of tens of thousands of drugs. At a maximum, it's only a $6 billion savings, when in reality, what we actually would do if we negotiated the drug prices is several $100 billion in savings. So what I'm saying to you is, while the Democrats do some things that are positive, they do it almost as a release valve. So they go, okay, here's another example that you mentioned, the Affordable Care Act. You know what it was called before it was called Obamacare?
You can enlighten me.
Yeah.
The Romney was a plan that was tried in a Republican state.
Exactly. It was called Romney Care.
Yeah.
And you know who came out with it? The Heritage Foundation, the same people who came out with Project 2025.
Okay.
That is a corporate release valve so that people don't build up too much pressure and go to a rebellion or a revolution. But in the bottom line is, that was a tiny, tiny little fix thought of by a right-wing think tank. And then now when you say to negotiate drug prices, Obama never did it, even though he ran an ad called Belly where he said he was going to do it. Biden does at most 6% of it. The Democrats are constantly doing 5 to 10% as a little release valve, but keep the machine going exactly as it is.
And we can totally agree that there should be more that's done. I guess maybe I was taking your claim too literally, which is that Democrats and Republicans agree on economic issues. And maybe there's a qualify in there. Is it largely agree? Is it mainly agree?
It's definitely large. Yeah, it's not 100% agree. Otherwise, it would be too obvious. But is it true that they largely agree? Of course. So I'll give you many other examples. Paid family leaves at 84%. Yet the Democrats never seem to be able to pass it. Why do they never pass it? Because they're not trying. They said they'd do the public option. Joe Biden didn't even announce introduce the public option. Why? Because they agree with Republicans.
Well, I don't think they agree with Republicans necessarily. I just think that sometimes it's hard to pass legislation in a bitterly divided Congress. Would you acknowledge that it's difficult very often in order to get things done? You don't. You don't.
See, that is the number one excuse Democrats use. Oh, golly gee, there was nothing we could do. And they sing, there was nothing we could do. There was nothing we could do. In reality, he didn't even try for the public option, Biden. He didn't introduce it. So that pulls at over 70%. Why not try? $15 minimum wage. The Republicans didn't take that out of the bill. Joe Biden took it out of the bill. You see those things where you can tell intent, and the intent is he actually agrees with the donor class and the Republicans. He doesn't want those things. If you can't pass a bill at 84%, then are you saying the Democrats are the most incompetent politicians in history?
I'm not saying they're the most incompetent party, and I'm also not saying they're perfect. I think that we risk running into an issue where we equate the two parties as being virtually the same, which leads people to not voting whatsoever at all because they think the whole class is against them. And I'm in complete agreement with you that the two-party system is fundamentally broken and that Democrats in a lot of ways have a lot of the same issues. I guess what I predominantly have an issue with is those who maybe don't take the time to have nuance in the discussion and just say, oh, they agree on economic issues and they only want to divide us on cultural issues.
Brother, so
I think
here's
that it's important to make that, because otherwise people stay home. They don't vote, and then we're in the situation that we're in right now when a lot of people don't end up voting.
No, but Oliver, so let me tell you my perspective on it that's really important.
Okay.
So Democrats always say, hey, look, there's a 5 to 10% difference, so you should vote for us.
Okay.
But they don't quite say it that way. You understand that. I understand that. A lot of people here understand that. But
marketing is a thing.
But hold on. This is super important.
Okay.
But they tell the voters, we're going to make a big difference. We're going to do minimum wage. We're going to do public option. We're going to do paid family leave.
Yes.
And when they don't, people get disappointed and disappointed. And that leads them to not voting. That leads them to hating the Democratic Party. What I'm saying is go with populist left. That is the one thing that has not been tried. We would actually do the bills. We do the bills. Otherwise, then you're the same as the Republicans.
Okay, fair enough. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Oliver.
These are websites that feel illegal to know. Sintra has just released the world's first AI employees who get the job done even while you sleep. You just feed them your business information and watch them work. These 12 AI helpers will definitely replace all your freelancers, from social media, business, sales, analytics, copywriting, and more. You can even connect them to other platforms and scale your business 10x faster. Gain the advantage first and give it a try today.